I'm Josh Allen, and welcome to the Baked In Podcast, where I sit down with industry innovators to uncover the unique ideas and values that are baked into their businesses and have led to extraordinary success. This podcast is presented by Busey Bank, my banking partner for my business since 2007. Busey understands the importance of putting your money to work for you. From their business checking and savings accounts to fraud protection and receivable services, Busey is by your side. Rely on their experts to secure and streamline your operations to help you maximize value and minimize costs so you can focus on running your business and bringing your vision to life. Discover how Busey Bank can support your business at busey.com/business. On this week's episode, I have the pleasure of catching up with Andy Karandzieff of the iconic Crown Candy Kitchen, St. Louis's oldest ice cream and soda fountain. Opened in 1913 by Andy's grandfather Harry, who brought his confectionery skills from Greece, along with a dream of providing a family-friendly environment to enjoy the delicious creations. Andy Candy, as he's affectionately known, is the third generation keeping this legacy alive in North St. Louis. He's a huge advocate for the city, and he isn't afraid to put his money where his mouth is, living and working in the same historic neighborhood. We touch on a lot during this conversation, including the weight of carrying on traditional candy making, lessons learned from his father, and his mom's advice about taking vacations when you can still enjoy them. Always a joy to sit with Andy. Let's roll. So I want to start kind of with the hard-hitting stuff. So is it Sunday or Sunday?
I have always said it's a hot fudge sundae. I tell people you go to church on Sunday, then you go have a sundae.
So that's not the conventional way that I hear it most of the time, though.
That's true. I mean, that's just, I think, for some people they tell me, since I'm from the north side, I have a little bit of a north side accent. So maybe that's just something that's always been part of it.
Well, I'm gonna lead into the next question then, because I had Dan Abel from Bissinger's on, and I asked him the caramel or caramel question. So does that mean you must fall on the caramel side?
Caramel,
okay.
Absolutely.
And that's where he fell too, which sort of surprised me, I guess, from the French confectionery side that we're talking about. But I'm thrilled to have you here today. And really, I think as I mentioned before we got started, that I'd really love to talk kind of more about the business side of things. I mean, the origin story, I mean, it's such an iconic legacy brand and place, and I mean it's such a wonderful thing for St. Louis, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about sort of the challenges that you face, and as I think about it, I mean the biggest one that comes to mind for me, kind of carrying on 110 plus year kind of family tradition, is what does that responsibility feel like to you? What's the weight of that?
You know, some days it feels like the weight of the world is on my shoulders because I have a responsibility to my customers, who are generational now, and I'm talking 3, 4, maybe even 5 generations at this point, to my employees, because a lot of my employees have been there for, anywhere from 5, 10, 20, 25, 30 years, and they're part of the family, basically.
Are there any folks that have worked there longer than you have?
No, I'm it.
Okay. You're it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm it now. Yeah, I'm the oldest employee. Yeah. So 47 years, I've been kind of around there since I was 13 years old. My first job was helping in the kitchen and learning how to make ice cream in the back. And then I slowly progressed out front to become a soda jerk and then help my father make chocolates.
So what's the origin of the jerk thing? Can you give me that?
So, back in the day, you had Coca-Cola or Pepsi syrup. And then they hit it with that carbonated water that came out of that arm on the soda fountain. Sure. They called it a fountain.
Right.
And it was usually a pretty tight arm, so you would literally have to jerk the arm back towards you to get the stream of carbonated water to come out. So they became soda jerk.
And it was tight because of the buildup of carbonation, or
because you didn't want it to. You didn't want it to come loose, and you would lose all that.
Gotcha.
So it was always a pretty firm handle. Yeah.
So how do you balance with that legacy and that tradition? How do you balance trying to meet innovation or change or new generations of customers, like you mentioned? I mean, is changing anything sort of sacrilege and everybody pushes against it, or are there opportunities for you sort of within that whole thing to find your own voice?
I used to always tell people change is a bad thing because everybody expects when you walk into Crown's, everything's going to look the same, everything's going to taste the same, everything's going to be the same. And for the most part, we have been pretty true to who we are and how we look and how we do things. So there's a balancing act, especially now in a new world. You know, we've got social media, so there's way more exposure. So you have to be very aware of how you treat customers and how you present yourself to the public. You know, before in the good old days, you know, I used to say the gossip column was the original social media, and you wanted to be in that for the right reasons.
As long as Jerry Berger put you in.
He was the original social media. That's what I would tell people, that it was Jerry Berger, because you wanted to be in there for all the right reasons, not because you were seen somewhere with somebody that you weren't supposed to be with. You know, when she would come into Crown, and we said, "Don't do that, Jerry." But yeah, it's an evolving process, and I think.
Are there things that you've changed that have fallen on their face? Like anything you can think about that you thought, I'm going to make this change, it's going to be for the better, and it just didn't work?
Yeah, well, the very first thing I'm going to go with is all these food delivery services. You know, they came in and promised you the moon. And you think, this is great. It's going to open up a whole new sector of how we can, you know, get food out to people. And it was not a pleasant experience. It didn't go well. It cost us a lot of money. Gave us a lot of headaches because if there's something wrong with the order because the driver picked it up late or never picked it up, who are they going to call? They're going to call us and complain. So, and then they took a big bite out of our profit. So that was the one thing that, you know, is.
So have you turned away from that? I mean, it's something that we battle. I mean, we're in the cafe business too, and it's really interesting because they sell you on this idea that it's all new revenue. You don't, you know, your kitchen staff is there, everything's there. John Doe customer isn't going to order from you unless you're going to deliver, and so it's dollars that you wouldn't have gotten anyway. And if we take the 20% or 30% off the top, it's still good money for you. And I mean, it's a compelling argument, but it's one that doesn't always work itself out, obviously.
Exactly. I think in the long run, it just wasn't worth it for us. It just
so you've turned them all off at this point?
Yeah, we don't. They call us and they say, "Hey, we got a great." And it's like, no, we're not interested. We're good where we are, and we're in a different location. We're in, the near north side. So my population base is a little bit thinner than some places. If I was maybe out in Richmond Heights or in Clayton or an area where there's a more dense population, it might be a different story. But where we're at, and even now with offices not being full downtown, that really hurts us. That was a big adjustment after COVID to lose all that office worker business.
Well, and I have to imagine that part of your success is somebody comes in for a BLT and then they grab some chocolate or they get some ice cream. Like there's some impulse things that happen because you're sitting in this iconic space and you see something that you wouldn't have seen. And if I just ordered online and got a sandwich, you're not making all your money just on the one sandwich. You need them. You're hoping that they kind of turn that into a bigger experience, right?
Absolutely. And it's funny because way back in the day, when my grandpa opened the store up, originally the candy case was in the back of the store and the soda fountain was in the front of the store. And then he figured out that if you made people walk past that candy case coming in and going out, you might get that impulse buy. So 100 years ago, my grandpa figured that out, that you want people to be standing right in front of that product. So maybe they'll say, hey, by the way, give me some of that also. So that's a big deal. It's like people come in, they order the BLT. You know what? Maybe I'll have a chocolate shake. You know what? Give me a half a pound of pecan clusters. And it all works. That's the way we're set up.
So how does it break down when you look at the business overall? Like, what is the ice cream versus chocolate versus lunch?
I would say restaurant is probably 40%, and then ice cream and candy are probably both around 30%, give or take a little bit. So it's a pretty even breakdown for the most part.
And are those numbers that you want to move, need to move, or are you comfortable that it's 40, 30, 30, and that's just how you run the business, and that's sort of what it is?
It's always kind of been that way. Now, I will say that maybe the candy has creeped up because here comes change. Sherry, my lovely and beautiful wife, who saves my life every day at work, she came in, she left the corporate world, Build-A-Bear, and she kind of came in and started doing a lot of the stuff for us behind the scenes, aka she built the website. And for us to say a website, that I'm like a caveman. I see fire and I get excited. She's like the Jetsons, So she came in and she says, this is where we can grow without expanding. We can increase our candy sales, if we build a decent website. So she worked on that. So that was the start of it. And then COVID really spurred her to really kind of grow the website, because guess what? People weren't moving around, but if you got online and you could order your pound of heavenly hash or your chocolate Santas or Easter bunnies, we can send them right to you. So that's where the candy probably has grown, is more of the online sales, which is a way of the world now. I mean,
Sure.
you got to.
But there's some unique challenges, I imagine, to shipping chocolate, certainly 4 or 5 months out of the year, and just the packaging of it, and it's different. It's a different business than you were in. Was that a challenge to make that conversion?
Oh, absolutely, and it's a little bit of sticker shock when you realize that, okay, now I have to buy a box to send this box of candy in, and then I have to pay UPS to ship it. And then they're great because you know where that package is at all the time. So then you find out that it's not cheap to do this, and we're not Amazon. We can't offer free delivery.
Right.
We're not that company. So we charge people exactly what it costs us to put that candy in that box and have that guy in the brown truck deliver it. We don't make a nickel off of that. We make nothing, but people will complain that it's too expensive. I'm like, well, we understand that, but so we can't eat that cost, and I can't build it into the cost of the candy. It would be.
And are you just doing your own to the consumer, or are you guys part of Gold Ballot? Are you part of any of the third-party online folks, or you have the same feeling about online, third parties online, as you do with delivering?
I don't. Sherry probably has dealt with them a little bit, maybe them reaching out, but we've never done that. We've always just been our own kind of. We drive our own sales that way. She does a really good job of marketing it. So I think it's just we have an established base, and they're pretty loyal to us.
And I mean, you've got a finite amount of space, so you're making chocolate, I'm guessing, in the same confines that you were making it before. You were mentioning before we started that you've got some storage capabilities once the product's finished. But in terms of the production, were there any particular challenges to ramp? Like, were you prepared to ramp that up as the online sales have picked up? Has that any particular challenges as it relates to that?
No, we were not. It was kind of like, okay, we need some extra space, so we kind of took over Sherry's office space, and that became the shipping department. So everything kind of got pushed down there, where everything would get packaged, everything would get labeled. The UPS guy driver would pick it up from that space, because in our space we don't have the room. If somebody wants, we're fortunate we have some nice corporate orders. So if somebody's got 300 boxes of candy that are getting picked up, I've got to put those somewhere, and that's where Sherry's space became the storage area. She had plenty of shelving, so we did that. So we were
Be careful what you wish for, right?
Yeah.
There goes your desk.
And it's a double-edged sword, because we don't have enrobers. We dip all of our chocolates we make by hand. I pour all the Santa Clauses, all the Easter bunnies by hand. That's all me. And now my niece Maddie has also stepped in, and she helps lighten the load a little bit. So it's time consuming. That's another reason why we don't do wholesale, because we're so labor intensive that, for me to sell my candy to you, and then you to sell your candy or my candy in the cafe, you're going to have to increase the price to make money, and it's just cost prohibitive. It won't work.
But it sounds like you've made a conscious decision to do that, right? I mean, like, at some point there was a moment where you could have built a production space. You could have gone the enrober route. You could have grown the candy business.
There was a space, and we could we can make a decision. We can use the space for this or for that. And I'm like, no, this is the way we've always done it. And maybe I'm a dinosaur, but this is how we've done it. I'm fortunate that I have friends, I call them the free help. They come down and help me make chocolate during the busy season. So, and they are literally our friends, that whether they're retired policemen or my best friend from high school, or, some of my other friends, they are like, I'll come down and help you. And so we've got free labor, so we can crank out a pretty decent amount of chocolate. But we're not that giant, expansive company. I don't want to be any bigger than I already am. I know my piece of the world, and I like it, and I'm comfortable with it.
Which is a terrific place to be. So congratulations on being able to sort of land at that spot. I haven't quite got there yet, so it's a little bit of a challenge. So we're recording this right at the end of October. So I guess the Halloween candy's done, and hopefully it's selling this week. What is the crunch to make the Christmas candy? You've been doing it long enough. Is it like a 2 or 3 week real big crunch that you do, and then because of the shelf life of chocolate, you can sort of get ahead of it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I basically Well, first of all, you'd like the weather to be a little bit cooler, even though we're climate controlled. It's still, when it's 92 degrees in October and humid, it does affect the process of making chocolate. It slows things down for the most part. But we start making the holiday candies, in theory, probably mid-September. I'll start pouring Santas. I'll start pouring turkeys. We'll start getting some of that stuff, boxed up, wrapped up, packaged up, ready to go. The nuts, we will wait. Now is when I'm going to get into crunch time, doing the pecans and cashews and almonds and macs and all that stuff, because shelf life, on that is a little bit shorter than chocolate. So basically November 1 is when I hit my stride. Like, I'm going to be there 5-6 days a week, might be 10, 12-hour days, getting chocolate done just to.
And for the most part, that's what you're doing? That's
1 day a week I get to go out front and be a soda jerk still. I still, that's my favorite job in the whole world, is scooping ice cream. But after 40 some odd years of scooping ice cream, I'm a little tired, I'm a little beat up, and I don't go like I used to.
Can you go with both hands?
No, I cannot. I've tried that. I have dipped left-handed, but it's not very pretty and it's not very efficient. But I've had to do that sometimes, yes.
So one of the hardest things, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know what it is, for us, we've never been in the season. Our bread business is really, we're making buns and rolls and table bread. So we'll get some fluctuations in volume, but we don't have, we don't make Christmas items specific. We don't make certain holiday items. How do you forecast? Like that to me would be the part that's so hard, right? Because you're going in there 5-6 days a week and you're dipping Santas and you're trying to figure out how many Santas do I need for Christmas? And 110 years or not, as you add online sales, as business is changing, as people are more nostalgic for things, like, those numbers aren't always that consistent. So how do you do it? Do you always aim to be a little short and know you're going to have to, I'll make them if I need them that final week, or so how do you approach the whole thing?
That's pretty much, we fly by the seat of our pants on some of that stuff. It is like, okay, first of all, Sherry actually created an inventory system. So now we know how much candy we ordered last year, and we know how many boxes we had last year. So she actually tracks all that before.
Is that the first time in 100 plus years?
Yeah, probably, in probably 100 years. Yeah, she came in, and maybe about 10 years ago, we actually started doing real inventory. And before, she's like, I said, I just would look at the order from last year, and I'd maybe order a little bit extra, a little bit less, depending on how busy we were, or how slow we were. So, but now it is one of those things where, like, for Christmas, we have a pretty good idea what we need. We have, there's those moments of scrambling when somebody might call up and say, hey, I need 150 pounds of chocolate-covered almonds. Well, that's not in the plan. Right. So guess what? That's what I'm doing the next, 2 days, is we're going to just do nothing but almonds just to get that ordered.
Yeah, you don't strike me as a guy that says no to a customer.
No, exactly. It's like, can you have this done by? I'm like, you guys do know that Christmas is on the same day every year, or Easter, but yes, I'm not going to say no to them. Unless it's physically impossible, we're going to get the job done. Yeah.
So what's been the biggest, as you think back, what's been the biggest out of the blue order that you had to deal with?
We make a custom bar for people sometimes, and it's like a 1 pound or 2 pound bar, and that's a lot of
their
chocolate.
Logo on it.
Yeah, they'll put their logo on it.
Okay.
And sometimes it's like, you know what, we need 800 chocolate bars, and we need them by the end of November. And it's the beginning of November. Well, the bar just doesn't fall out of the sky. You have to get that made. That has to get shipped to us from New York, and then we have to knock them out. And I got to make sure I have the extra chocolate for that. So, there's been some times where I've been, working from morning till evening, getting those chocolate bars made, because it's a little bit longer process just to get that all done. But, we've had people come in and say, can I get 75 2-pound boxes? When do you want them? Well, can I have them today? Well, no, but we can have them tomorrow. Give me a minute, we can get it done.
So you guys have such an iconic kind of image and vibe. So how do you keep that? You mentioned social media, but where trends are so critical and things are changing all the time and new concepts are coming and going all the time, how do you think you guys have stayed relevant for as long as you have?
Well, I think that goes right back to being around for 111 years now. It is. I got to do math in my head. Yeah. Because it's a generational thing. A lot of the people that come in they've been eating that egg salad or that chili or that Reuben or that BLT for for decades. So, be consistent. Always give the customer what they expect to get, so we don't change the recipes. We don't church things up. We keep it the same. But it's also word of mouth, because somebody comes in and they said, I had a great experience, I'm going to go tell my friends about this. Or the concierge downtown at the hotel said, this is a great place to bring my family. And you capture them. And I think what's critical for a lot of restaurants is capturing their kids.
Yeah.
Because, mom and dad went to this restaurant, but if that restaurant is not their kids' kind of thing, they're not going to go. They're not going to go there. The next generation's going to go. I'm going to go someplace different. So we've got, like I said, it is. I think it really basically comes down to nostalgia and a generational thing for a lot of people, and just being consistent.
Yeah, it's funny. I had Matt McGuire from Louis and Wright's Tavern on last year, and we were talking about this whole menu change thing, right? Like how often you change your menu. And he said something that I had never heard anybody articulate in the way that he had, where he said, look, people are full of shit. He said they don't want change. He said they want to come in and bring their friend and say, I love this dish. This is the dish. You got to try this. And the minute they come in and that dish is off the menu, they're like, look, I only come in a handful of times a year. I'm coming in to eat that item that I love. Don't take that stuff off the menu.
Oh yeah, that chicken sandwich, that chicken dish at his restaurant is
sure.
by far the best chicken I've ever had. Yeah.
But I mean, so it's interesting to think about that, because I mean, I wanted to talk to you about like innovation and trends, and I think the real answer is we can't mess with that stuff. Like what brings people back and back again is the BLT or the egg salad.
Right.
And the minute I start futzing with that is the minute that I turn somebody off.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not going to put an avocado on our BLT. It's just not what we do. It's just not. It's not what people come in expecting. And we've tried to do things. We've tried to maybe we'll do an Italian sausage sandwich on Saturday as a special, and then at the end of the day, all I see is my staff eating those Italian sausages because we didn't sell any. It's just not. It's not. People come in and they have this expectation that I'm going to get this BLT or this chili dog, so yeah. In that standpoint, change is not a good thing. It is, be consistent, give people the good quality product, and they're going to keep coming back.
So you mentioned we've been talking about the BLT. I was watching something as I was doing some research that you guys fry 300 pounds of bacon every day.
On a busy day, we'll do 300 pounds. Yeah.
So that's unbelievable. What are the other? Give me a couple of other numbers. I saw 4,000 pounds of milk chocolate for the Easter bunnies.
That's just the bunnies. Right? That doesn't include anything else. That's just the bunnies. That's roughly breaks down to about 10,000 Easter bunnies.
And what's a batch? Like how many? I mean, what do you make at one time? Are you doing 40 or 50 pounds of chocolate?
Well, I've got a 450-pound chocolate melter. Okay. So once again, depending on, am I pouring 3-ounce Easter bunnies? Am I pouring 1 pound and 2 pound Easter bunnies?
Sure. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
4,000.
Yeah. So, but it's I'll get going at 10:30, and we'll finish up around 3:30 or 4 o'clock. Getting them all poured and draining the machine regardless, and then load the machine back up, melt it down overnight, and do it all over again.
So, how much chocolate for Christmas coming up? You got a number? Is there a number?
You know what? We'll probably sell, if you count all the chocolates, everything, we'll probably be around 8,000-9,000 pounds of chocolate.
Yeah.
So
you're not messing around.
No, and that's actually the number 2 holiday. Easter is the big kahuna.
Oh, Easter
is. I mean, and they're all unique. The three big ones are Christmas, Valentine's Day, and Easter. Those are the 3 big ones.
And what sells for those holidays? I mean, aside from the shapes, but even what sells is different for those?
Oh, yeah, and they're all different animals because, we'll start with Christmas. That's more of a corporate holiday. That's where the money is. That's where, we really make it, is because we're selling hundreds of boxes of candy to a company or to a law firm or to a doctor's office. Mom and dad coming in and buying candy for the holidays is kind of the gravy. That's great. That's a good big part of it, but it's all corporate for the most part. Valentine's Day is 3 days of chaos and men buying candy for their significant others. And you can't get ahead of Valentine's Day because there's strawberries, and strawberries are got to be fresh, and then strawberries in February are not the best time of year to get strawberries, so we always have the drama of will the strawberries be good? Will they be expensive? Will they be cheaper? Will they, so.
And a raspberry isn't the same as a
It is
strawberry
not-
to people.
Yeah,
They won't.
yeah. So it's like Valentine's Day probably should be in, maybe more in the summertime when strawberries are, everywhere and they're cheap and they look beautiful. And then Easter is a marathon because we start making Easter candy in January, and Easter is the only moving target in my life. Is when will Easter be? Will it be early? Will it be late? I'd like it to be.
At least you know in advance.
Yeah, I do. You're right. I would prefer it to be the first week of April every year, but the Pope doesn't care about that. He doesn't care what I think. But that is make the candy, and then 6 weeks before Easter, get the candy out, and then you have, mom and dad coming in, or grandma and grandpa, and it ramps up around spring break. So once the kids are out of school, Easter's coming or it's almost here. So it's a little bit of chaos because we've got all the Easter candy business going on. You've got, spring break going on, and it's a great time of year, but it's one of the most stressful times of year for us, is just trying to get all that stuff.
So if Christmas is 8,000 or 9,000 pounds, what's Easter total?
It's probably right around, probably right in the same ballpark now, probably around 9,000 or 10,000 pounds.
Okay.
If you look at it with everything, once again, it's just.
And you guys do everything from scratch, right? I mean, you're making your own chocolate syrup, you're making your own hot fudge, you're making your own butterscotch. I mean, you're doing things that most folks aren't seeing done
Right.
anymore.
Because it's for most people, it's like, oh, you can just open up a number 10 can of Hershey's chocolate fudge and you get your hot fudge. It's like, no, we've been making this hot fudge the same way forever. And I before I came here, I was making butterscotch. I got up this morning, made a batch of butterscotch. We've been doing it the same way forever. The chocolate syrup, which I think is one thing that is very unique for us, is the fact that we make our own chocolate syrup, and I think that's why our chocolate shakes and malts are by far one of our top sellers when it comes to ice cream or food. We sell more of those than just about any other ice cream, thing, is chocolate malt, chocolate banana malts. Yeah.
So what other kind of metrics? I mean, obviously we can talk about pounds all day because it's fascinating to me from a production standpoint, but what are the other metrics that you're sort of, or Sherry maybe, is looking at on a regular basis that sort of give you an indication? Is, I routinely like to ask people what's that dashboard look like, right? Like, is it a sales number? Is it transactions? Is it just how busy it, is it just sales between noon and 1 on a Saturday? Like are there things that you sort of look at that give you sort of the temperature of how the business is going, and if things don't feel well, but you see a metric this way, it kind of takes a little pressure off, or even if things feel busy, but this number isn't in the right spot, it kind of ramps up your anxiety?
I guess Christmas is probably one of the most anxious times because you want that retention of all those big numbers, sales. Those are the ones you're anxious about, and sometimes
The corporate business.
Yeah, the corporate wide, because those folks tend to not think about Christmas until November. Sometimes not until they're eating turkey, and we want to know. We want to know in September so that we can have everything in place for all of this. So I know I got enough
Are
chocolate.
you proactively reaching out, or do you
Sherry
doing
does all
things?
that.
She does all that?
She is, she doesn't bombard people, but she'll send her email reminder, hey, Christmas is coming.
Gentle pressure.
Yeah, she doesn't, we don't hit people over the head with it. And then, so that's where I think we get a lot of anxiousness is from that. And then, even let's go to Valentine's Day. You look at the weather. It's like, okay, we don't want no snowstorms or ice storms, the week of Valentine's Day, because we want people moving around because they got to come down and get their candy. But no, I wish I could say that everything was a straight line for us and we could, we knew exactly how things were going to go, but you just don't know. You don't know from one season to the next. Are people going to be buying Easter bunnies? Are they going to be buying peanut butter eggs instead of Easter bunnies? Are they going to, you just don't know. We have to always be very flexible and very adaptive, every season to see where we're going to be.
Yeah, but those relationships have value, right? I mean, all those long-term relationships with that corporate business. I mean,
yeah, it does, absolutely. And I don't begrudge anybody. It's like, this year we're going to go do something different. I get it. You've been buying my candy for 10 years. You're going to do something different. I completely respect it. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, we'll see you next year. And we just had that. Somebody left last year, and now they're back this year. So it's like, okay, we're happy to have you back. So
are there any unique opportunities that you think you have in being a kind of a legacy brand in sort of the way you approach the holidays, or ways in which you can leverage that experience to continue to grow the business?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. I think with social media now, I think we like to kind of hit people over the head with the fact that, first of all, support a local business. I don't care if it's they're buying 1,000 loaves of bread from you to give out to their customers, or they're buying 500 hams from one of the local butchers, or somebody like that. But support local. So we kind of want to hammer that home. It's like, don't choose a corporate company that's not here from St. Louis. And I don't think you can't get any more local and generational than us when it comes to a family business as far as that goes. So we kind of play that as much as we can, saying, hey, support us. We've been here supporting this city and this community for a very long time, and the reason we are is because y'all are supporting us. But in today's world, it gets harder and harder with labor costs and food costs and everything else. It's just it's a new challenge.
Sure. I mean, and you mentioned community. So what role do you think Crown Candy plays in North St. Louis? I mean, you guys have been an iconic corner for 100 plus years, and how do you think that has impacted the neighborhood?
I think it's good because people always say, I'm never going down to the city, or I'm not going to the north side, and I can point to the people that are lined up outside our doors, waiting to get in and have lunch or buy candy. I said, this happens, during the busy seasons, and everybody's fine. There's not all this mayhem and chaos. We're in the city. It's the city. We all know the city has its issues, but I'd like to think we're a stable point for people to say, look, Crown's on the north side, and for the neighborhood. I think and this is, I'm just going to go off on a tangent here. This is something that when I'm struggling sometimes and I'm back there working and it's just like, food costs are up and having issues with this or having issues with that. And I'm just like, God, I've been doing this my whole life. Is this really worth it anymore for me to do this? And all it takes is one of my neighborhood customers who just comes in and says, you know what, thank you so much for still being here. It really means a lot to my family and to this community. And that just, everything just goes away. And it's like, it reminds me of what we're doing. We're part of this city. We're part of this neighborhood.
And you live right there, right?
And we live there. We live upstairs. Right. So yeah. So I mean, we're always there, and I love it. And people always have said, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? I said, nope. This is our home. This is where we've been. This is part of what makes us who we are, is being in this space. So,
because I'm sure there's been opportunities in 47 years to open in Chesterfield, downtown Webster, or something like that.
We get people take a run at us. So we got a great space in Kirkwood, or we got a great space, out in Chesterfield, or out in Dardine Prairie, or someplace. And it's like, then we're just another ice cream and candy store and restaurant in a strip mall that is just. There's no history to it. It's very sterile, in my opinion. So. No, this is part of who we are and what makes us.
How long do you think Crown Candy can be there, as you look at the future?
It's.
I mean, you just turned 60.
Yeah,
I did the math when you were giving those numbers a minute ago. So, what kind of legacy do you think can be built upon into the future? Whether it's you or Maddie or sort of whoever carries that on.
Yeah. First of all, I circle back to my grandfather, and I think that my grandpa Harry ever think that in 111 years, Crown Candy would still be on this corner. Was that part of his long-term plan, or was his long-term plan just to make it through the next week? And then my father took it over.
Now, before you get off of that, did you ever get to work with your grandfather?
No, he passed away when I was a year old, so I never got to meet him.
So you never got to ask that question?
I never got to ask that question. I talked to my dad about him, and my father said my grandpa was all work, 6 days a week. They never went out to dinner. They always just worked. They had a day off, and that was family day, and then it was right back to work.
Yeah, my grandfather was the same way. He worked until he was 93, passed away, but worked 6 days a week and was in there, and it was neat. I did have an opportunity. He passed away when a couple of years after the bakery opened, actually. So I did have that chance to ask those questions. And
these are things that family business. You know what? when I was younger, I took for granted that I was always going to come to work and my brothers were going to be there, my mom was going to be there, my dad was going to be there. We were always just all together. And sometimes we all loved each other, and sometimes we all wanted to kill each other. And I look back now and I think, I wish I would have embraced it more. I wish I would have gotten more out of it. I'm not saying I didn't, but all the stuff you take for granted, and all of a sudden it's just gone. And
how long did you work with your dad before he stopped?
Let's see, 83. I thought I took the easier way out when I graduated from high school in 82, and came to work for the family business and full time. And he passed away in 2005. He stopped working in 2001. So
20 plus.
Yeah. So, and we worked side by side a lot because I was the guy that was helping him with the chocolate. So we were together a lot. So I'm thankful for having my father and absorbing as much as I did from watching him work and how he interacted with people. I mean, my father was a great schmoozer. He loved to go out and do public relations. That was his.
How different do you lead than he led?
I don't think it's very dissimilar. I think because he was all about work, get the job done, but he was also all about taking care of the employees, making sure that everything, they were taken care of, that they were in a good spot. He expected a lot. He was a little more probably strict as far as the dress code and the being on time. But once again, the world has changed.
Sure.
Sometimes we have to overlook a few things nowadays. Just be happy that our employees are there actually working. So, and then I think one of the biggest things I took away from my father is how to be good to people, the customers, and treat people right, and make them feel like that they are important, because you can go anywhere to eat, but you chose to come to see us. And people like to be recognized, so they like to know that they're not just a table and a check number and here's your food, eat and get out. So I think they like that. My father was really good about.
Yeah, and you have this ability, because you've been there so long and the concept's been there so long, to recognize that you're not just selling them lunch, you're trying to make sure that they bring their kids and their grandkids. I mean, you're really thinking about it from a longevity standpoint that's so unique to the way that most of us run our businesses, because many of us, even if we're super diehard customer service focused organizations, we just haven't had the luxury of thinking that way. And my sister starts to a little bit with the cafe being 20 plus years old or whatever, but it's different when you've got something like what you've got. And so I think it's great that you recognize that and you guys are focused on that.
Yeah, and like I said, it's all about capturing. You don't, giving an 8-year-old kid a piece of candy or a chocolate Easter bunny, you don't realize that maybe 10 years down the road, he's going to come in and tell you that. I remember my first time down here, you gave me, an extra scoop of ice cream, or you did this. And I'm like, and that's part of taking care of people, because then they're going to think, I want to go back there because this is good. This is a place I want to support, and I want it to be around. So we're fortunate that, like I said, I learned from my father. I also learned from my brother Mike. He passed away in 2012. My brother Mike knew everybody that walked through those doors. I mean, everybody knew my brother, and my brother knew everybody. And God love him, because I know everybody, but I can't remember anybody's names.
You and me both.
But Mike was another one. He learned from my father, and he died at 57, and I never thought that I would be here and he wouldn't be here with me.
Right.
But we carry on, and now we circle back to what's the responsibility, what's the weight feel like, and sometimes I go in there and take it all for granted because it's all great, and sometimes I go in there and think all this is basically falls on my shoulders, and I also,
especially when the enrober goes down or something.
Yeah, it's like, okay, by the way, this isn't working. It's like, but they look to me, and I've got to figure it out, and I've got to remain calm. I can't run around like my hair's on fire.
So you come in here, you got a beautiful tan. So you said you were just in the Caribbean. So is vacation the way that you sort of relax and reset? Are there other things that you do to sort of separate yourself and make sure that you're in a good spot every day when you go in there?
Yeah, first of all, I'm an early riser, so I love getting up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and going downstairs when it's peaceful, and I can have my coffee and I can get a lot of little stuff done, so I can kind of get leveled there and then prepare myself for whatever's coming for the day, whether it's good or bad. So I like that early morning, giving me a coffee, and I can get stuff done. We never took vacations when we all worked, so that was a luxury for any of us. So when it came time for me to actually have people in place to give us the opportunity to go on vacation, started with once a year, then it was twice a year, and now I'm fortunate that I'm in a place where Sherry and I can go on vacation and go relax. And I'm good at this now. I can turn it all off.
You can.
I used to take about 3 days to decompress and not worry about stuff, and now I'm much better at it because I've got complete confidence in my crew back there. This better not come back to bite me in the ass saying that out loud. But yeah, the vacations, you look forward to that. For me, we work all day. We get off work. I walk upstairs. We just got a new puppy, so I've always been.
That's some work.
Yeah, Dolce. She's a Bernese Mountain Dog, and she's 6 months old, and she's great. She's a lot of work, but she's great. But go up there, Sherry's up there. We both get off about the same time, and I'll sit down. I'll have a cigar. I got that from my father. That was my bad habit that I got from my dad, was cigar smoking. But I'll go up and have a cigar and relax. We'll have some dinner. We'll watch a little TV. Go to bed. Get up and do it all over again.
Yeah.
And just be thankful for everything we do have. Yeah, because my mom always told me, your father and I waited till we were too old to go on vacation and enjoy it, because my dad's knees were shot. So they would go on vacation, but my dad couldn't do anything because he just couldn't move around that much. So my mom hammered into me, go when you're young and can enjoy it. So I took my mother's advice, and we've embraced it. So
we should all listen to your mother.
Yes, absolutely, because life is short. We get no guarantees.
Right.
I've unfortunately had way too many reminders the last couple of years of friends leaving us way too soon. So we're going to live.
Well, Andy, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the chance to just chat with you a little bit and hear some of the stuff that you got going on. It's always exciting. I thank you from the community for you continuing to do what you do. I'll say it as your neighbors say it every once in a while. I think it's great. And as someone who's part of the St. Louis food scene, to always know that you're doing your thing is terrific. So thanks for your time today.
Josh, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. And when I get done, I'm going to go home and put chocolate on my nuts all day and just have a lovely day.
Thanks so much for joining me today. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed sharing these insights from folks I truly admire. Be sure and follow the show in your favorite podcast player to be alerted to newly released episodes. And share a comment if you have any feedback or future contributor recommendations.